Let me know if this sounds familiar. You're honing your craft in cinematography and see your images becoming better and better, more beautiful and striking. And yet something still feels a bit lacking, like your images aren't popping the way you want them to. And yet you see other DPs and cinematographers getting more exciting work, better paying jobs, and winning awards, even though you think your work is just as good, if not better, than the work you are seeing from them. Well, here's the hard truth. It's just too easy to shoot beautiful images to solely rely on doing just that. You have to have other ways to differentiate yourself and figure out how to package your images so that they are perceived as being more valuable. Great cinematography is not just about shooting incredible images. It can be enhanced or destroyed in a variety of ways that have nothing to do with actually shooting anything. And that's what I want to talk about today. Ways to make your cinematography shine and stand out that have nothing to do with actually shooting a frame. I recently won an ASC award for Best Cinematography in a documentary feature for King Cole, a film my wife directed, and in which I served as director of photography, and which was acquired and is now available to stream on POV, link below. Winning the award for Best Documentary Feature is an incredible honor, and one could make the assumption that I won because it was the finest shot documentary of the year. And while I am not going to say that I am not proud of the work I did on King Cole, it's the best thing I've ever shot, I don't believe for one second that the cinematography was the only reason that it won a cinematography award, as contradictory as that might sound. Instead, there were a host of different reasons and decisions, some of which I was a part of and many of which I was not, that helped the cinematography be a standout feature of the film. So let's dig into some of the ways that you can enhance your own cinematography. The first way to make your cinematography really shine without actually improving your cinematography at all is a pretty apparent one, and that is to point your camera at and film a great story. The more you're working on compelling films with directors who have a great vision, the more your cinematography will stand out. Some of my favorite films and filmmakers aren't necessarily known for their incredible cinematography, even though I believe they are some of the best shot films out there. Looking at the work of Adam Stone and Jeff Nichols, one of my favorite DP and director partnerships,
I'm thinking of starting a writing club.
There's some absolutely beautiful work, but not in the way that people think of big, sweeping cinematography that lands you an Oscar nomination like 1917 or Gravity or The Revenant. Instead, it's focused and assured, gritty and raw, and has a true realism to it. What makes the cinematography so compelling, though, is that it fits the story of these films so well. It is the story and compelling characters that are drawing you in and making each shot feel more substantial, more important, and more intriguing. In King Cole, the same thing applies here as well. The film is part documentary, part fable, and an intensely personal story not only for Elaine, but also for all Appalachians. The combination of Elaine's voiceover and the story of a region beholden to an industrial king drives the film forward so well that the cinematography starts to truly feel like a character in the story itself.
But he's not dead, either. I guess you could say he's a ghost.
While I believe there are some great individual images in the film, because the story is so fluid and well narrated, each individual image and each scene transition feels incredibly natural, and the praise then falls upon the cinematography when truly it is the story that is doing the heavy lifting. This next one is loosely connected to actually shooting images, but not necessarily so, and that's to put yourself in a situation to capture the most compelling image possible. If you want to shoot great images, then you need to be standing in front of something worth shooting, and at a time when it is best to shoot it. On narrative films or music videos, this can be pretty apparent, but for documentarians, this often means going out and finding the most compelling stories and putting yourself in a position to capture captivating action. For my forthcoming feature documentary, Country Brawlers, this meant driving around to a dozen boxing gyms across Appalachia to find the most interesting characters and then making sure to be where I needed to be during the most dramatic moments of those characters' lives.
I'm the guy you want beside you in Vietnam. No! I'm the guy that'll carry you out with your leg blown off.
For a more observational film like King Cole, this sometimes just meant getting up really early to film certain locations in the best light possible, or staying out late enough to film at golden hour. These are the actions that have nothing to do with your skill as a cinematographer or filmmaker, but rather on your intention to do the best job possible. It takes extra effort to find the best locations, be there at the right time with the most compelling characters, but it is ultimately what separates decent images from great images. So if you want your cinematography to shine, put yourself in a position to capture compelling images. Oftentimes, that is half the battle. Let me play you a brief clip from King Cole and see if you can spot the difference. It's an incredibly stark difference to watch images with incredible sound design or to watch with just music. While music can be an enhancer of images, more on that later, too much of it, or in the absence of natural sound, it can be a net negative to enhancing cinematography. So our next way to enhance your cinematography is to work with or create your own soundscapes to fuel your images. Films are an audio-visual experience, and when we can see something but can't hear it, it feels a little off. But if we can hear what is going on in the scene, the image starts to feel more full, more alive, and therefore more striking as a work of cinematography. King Cole is another great example of this, as the film's sound design works to truly enhance the images you are seeing and the story you are following. From the grinding of the continuous miner underground, to the sounds of the natural landscapes. Elaine also employed a breath artist to add even more life to the film, creating many of the sound effects, winds, breaths of the film with an actual human voice. Once layered into the film, it makes each individual shot feel more alive and intentional. I have put a link below to the work of our three main creatives in our sound design department, Billy, Alex, and Shodake, so make sure to check out their work. If you aren't placing emphasis on sound design yet, start to do so now and you'll see how your cinematography truly benefits. I've said this in a video before, but I once had a photography professor once say to me that if you want to be known as a great photographer, don't show anyone your bad photos. And the same holds true as a cinematographer. None of us are perfect all of the time. However, most photographers get to choose what photos they show people and what photos they do not. For many cinematographers, we do not have that choice. We often shoot the film or commercial or music video and then hand the footage off to an editor who chops it up however they please. Now, for the first 5 to 6 years of my career, and still on many smaller projects, I edit a lot of my own work. But on bigger films or work-for-hire DP jobs, someone else will be in charge of editing the footage that I shot. And I have been in a few situations where I thought I was handing over some pretty great footage, but the editor decided to keep in every focal length change or every camera shake when repositioning or other actions that I assume would just be edited out. And in the end, the cinematography looked fairly awful. So having a great editor who understands what you're going for and a director who understands their vision right from the get-go will only help in enhancing your own work. For King Cole, Elaine and her co-editor Eva did an incredible job of weaving together an insane amount of footage, matching shots perfectly, creating a flow that made sense, and using the best possible moment whenever possible. Now, I would never choose covering up a mistake like missed focus or a zoom in if the story requires it, but those things are also pretty easy to cover up if you've done a great job as a cinematographer and have plenty of cutaways and coverage. But good editing can help you not just by covering up your mistakes, but also by amplifying your best work. There are some shots in King Cole that are held for a very long time, but because they are some of the finest shots in the film, it gives them more weight, making the entire film feel stronger cinematically than it otherwise would. This particular shot is over 30 seconds long, but because it's one of the best shots of the film and is driven by the story, it makes sense for it to be that long.
We're a haunted people.
Lesser editors would have cut this faster or cut to a close-up and then back out again to get our character to the tree quicker, but it works best for the story as a meditative long shot, and that is what makes it truly shine.
Death is coming.
Finally, we come to an important aspect of great looking films, but perhaps not in the same way that many people might think, and that's the usage of a great score. In my opinion, music is the easiest art form to use to elicit emotion, and it is often used in film to do just that. A violin swell when tears are expected, or a thundering drum for inspiration and action. But it can also be a detractor in films if overused or used in the wrong way. I stand by the best way to enhance your cinematography being the use of natural sound and sound design, but score, if used well, can also make the images pop just that tiny bit more. A great music track that fits the tone and style of the film and images at the perfect time has a way of enhancing the cinematography in a way that nothing else can replicate.
Long ago, this region was defined by our geography. These mountains.
But a score that is overwhelming or isn't tonally correct or is just non-stop can really start to detract from the film and therefore the cinematography of the film. Not every scene needs music, and sometimes ambient scores or minimalist scores are the best ways to enhance your images. In King Cole, our composer Bobak created an incredibly rich and layered score that never overwhelmed the visuals or felt out of place. Often the score almost felt like it was part of the sound design, with the beating drum of King Cole himself being the backbone to that score. It was a score that enhanced each image it accompanied, but knew when to let the story, visuals, and natural sound speak for themselves. And this is what the best scores do. They enhance the film that they are part of. They do not overwhelm them. And now some quick acknowledgements. While accepting the ASC award for King Cole, I had a whole speech in my head that was a much shorter version of this video. I got a bit nervous and couldn't really get it all out, but the point was that great cinematography does not exist in a vacuum. Instead, it is a piece of a whole that is enhanced by the creative work and collaboration of other artists, or by the time and energy you yourself put into enhancing these aspects of your own films, even if it is just for the sake of showcasing your cinematography. Great cinematography can and should be able to stand on its own, but if you have a great story and vision, put yourself in the middle of the action, enhance the images with sound design, edit the images to be the best version of themselves, and have a great but not overwhelming score, your images will start to feel better even if your cinematography hasn't improved at all. Perhaps you're able to put this into practice with a current project, but otherwise think about these before you go out and shoot your next film. What are some other ways you enhance your own cinematography? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.